A historic shift. The rise of Islam in North Korea in 2024. For decades, North Korea has been recognized as one of the globe's most insular and authoritarian regimes, an environment where religious liberty is virtually non-existent. However, in 2024, an unprecedented transformation unfolded. Islam began to proliferate rapidly, with thousands of North Korean citizens wholeheartedly embracing the faith. This extraordinary development drew international scrutiny and provoked profound inquiries into how such a spiritual emergence could transpire in a nation infamous for its rigid control over religious expression. At the epicenter of this metamorphosis stood the Aram Mosque in Pyongyang, which for years had remained dormant, visited solely by foreign diplomats and a scant number of worshippers. Yet by 2024, the mosque evolved into a vibrant spiritual nucleus, brimming daily with North Koreans engaging in routine prayers, Friday congregational services, and festive Islamic celebrations. The swift surge in worshippers astonished even the local populace, many of whom had never before witnessed such an overt manifestation of religious devotion. Perhaps the most astonishing dimension of this change was a monumental policy reversal by Kim Jong-un. Despite presiding over a regime renowned for stringent authoritarianism, he made the unparalleled decision to authorize the construction of additional mosques in key urban centers. This startling move bewildered the global community, which had long perceived North Korea as utterly impermeable to religious pluralism. The ascendance of Islam within North Korea was no random phenomenon. It was the product of multiple critical catalysts. These included increased exposure to external information, the existence of clandestine religious networks, and a profound longing for spiritual nourishment among North Korean citizens. Through translated Islamic literature, encrypted digital media, and covert encounters with foreign Muslims, many individuals began discovering the tenets of Islam, regarding it as a route to tranquility, justice, and communal solidarity. Though this transformation remains delicate and in its early stages, it signifies a pivotal juncture in North Korea's religious and societal trajectory. One of the most breathtaking elements of Islam's emergence in North Korea in 2024 was the dramatic ideological pivot executed by Kim Jong-un. For generations, the North Korean regime had upheld a rigidly atheist doctrine, permitting only state-sanctioned religious expressions that harmonized with the ruling ideology. The notion of Islam flourishing on a national scale seemed inconceivable in such an oppressively regulated atmosphere. Yet, contrary to all expectations, Kim Jong-un took a historic step, sanctioning the erection of new mosques in major cities throughout the nation. This represented a seismic shift in North Korea's religious framework, potentially heralding a more accommodating approach toward faith-based communities. For years, spiritual expression in North Korea had been heavily repressed. Believers were relegated to underground churches and secret gatherings to practice their faith in utmost secrecy. While Buddhism and Christianity were represented by a few tightly monitored, state-operated temples and churches, Islam had been virtually non-existent in public life. The Aram Mosque in Pyongyang, constructed decades earlier primarily as a diplomatic gesture to Muslim-majority countries, had long stood nearly abandoned. However, 2024 brought a remarkable upheaval. As thousands of North Koreans adopted Islam, the mosque became a pulsating epicenter of religious fervor, and demand for new places of worship surged exponentially. In a move that confounded both domestic observers and foreign analysts, Kim Jong-un refrained from suppressing these religious gatherings. Instead, he approved the establishment of additional mosques, stunning many across the international arena. The motives driving this astonishing policy evolution remain ambiguous, yet experts propose several possible explanations. First, North Korea has been increasingly eager to enhance diplomatic and economic connections with Muslim-majority nations, particularly those in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. By fostering the expansion of Islam, Kim Jong-un may be extending a gesture of goodwill, potentially to secure economic assistance, trade deals, or political partnerships. Second, internal discontent within North Korea has been on the rise. Religion, particularly one grounded in peace, justice, and unity, may offer a structured and controllable outlet for spiritual expression that mitigates societal unrest. Lastly, some theorize that this shift is part of a wider initiative to experiment with limited freedoms, testing the waters of religious tolerance within a still tightly regulated system. Despite these advancements, the practice of Islam in North Korea continues to confront formidable obstacles. While the regime has permitted the construction of mosques, all religious activity remains under meticulous surveillance and government scrutiny, and any deviation from state-approved practices could result in severe repercussions. Public manifestations of faith, such as donning Islamic garments or openly preaching, are still regarded with deep suspicion. However, for many North Koreans, the newly discovered opportunity to worship, even under tight constraints, signifies a glimmer of hope for broader religious liberty in the future. Whether this change is merely a short-term political strategy or the onset of enduring reform remains uncertain. But one thing is undeniable: North Korea is no longer the completely isolated nation it once was. The swift proliferation of Islam within North Korea in 2024 was not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of multiple underlying dynamics that converged during a pivotal period in the country's history. For decades, North Koreans endured intense governmental oversight, with minimal exposure to foreign ideologies, outside information, or religious customs. Yet in recent years, fissures began to emerge in the regime's once impenetrable information barrier, allowing new concepts, including religion, to slowly permeate society. As a result, Islam began to take root among ordinary citizens who were yearning for spiritual nourishment, justice, and a sense of connection. One of the most pivotal drivers behind this awakening was the gradual access to external knowledge. Despite the regime's best efforts to suppress foreign content, underground networks and encrypted channels allowed new ideologies, including Islamic beliefs, to enter North Korea. Translated texts, digital platforms, and even smuggled documentaries about Islam provided North Koreans with their first real exposure to a religion that had long been obscured within their borders. Socioeconomic struggles also played a crucial part in this religious reawakening. Numerous North Koreans, particularly those grappling with destitution and a rigid, controlled existence, sought hope, equity, and spiritual direction. Islam, with its strong focus on community, self-discipline, and universal equality, offered answers to existential questions that the state's ideology failed to address. Concurrently, covert religious networks began to surface, forming discrete connections between North Koreans and the wider world. Individuals who had interacted with Muslim travelers, merchants, or diplomats quietly began sharing Islamic teachings with their neighbors and loved ones. These small but steadfast circles spread Islamic knowledge through secret gatherings, where prayer, dialogue, and religious education occurred in total discretion. Over time, these underground endeavors gained traction, and by 2024, they had amassed sufficient momentum to attract thousands of adherents across the nation. The Aram Mosque in Pyongyang, once a silent and unfrequented edifice, gradually transformed into a symbol of spiritual renewal. As the number of Muslim practitioners swelled, the mosque evolved from a mere diplomatic token into a genuine sanctuary of faith, drawing North Koreans eager to both understand and practice Islam. Foreign imams and Islamic scholars played a decisive role in nurturing this transformation. Traveling with extreme caution and discretion, they offered guidance and education to the new believers. These scholars presented Islamic principles in a culturally sensitive manner, emphasizing values such as inner tranquility, social cohesion, and self-discipline, qualities that deeply resonated within North Korea's strict social fabric. While this religious shift has awakened spiritual optimism, it also poses pressing questions about the future of religious freedom in North Korea. Will the regime sustain its current tolerance, or will it reassert dominance and impose stricter control once more? Despite the uncertainties ahead, the fact remains: Islam has carved out a place within North Korea, demonstrating that even in the most oppressive and restricted environments, faith possesses an enduring capacity to flourish. And yet, despite the astonishing surge of Islam in North Korea in 2024, the path for North Korean Muslims remains riddled with obstacles and fraught with peril. While Kim Jong-un's unexpected decree permitting mosque construction hinted at a notable policy evolution, religious liberty in North Korea remains extremely limited. The regime carries a long legacy of oppressing religious expression, and although Islam has become more visible, those who embrace it must do so with utmost discretion. Persistent state surveillance, entrenched social stigma, and the ever-present threat of government retaliation render the practice of Islam in North Korea an ongoing struggle. One of the most formidable challenges Muslims face in North Korea is state surveillance. The regime monitors nearly every dimension of daily life, and any divergence from official ideology is perceived as a potential threat to national stability. Even though mosques now exist in several urban centers, worshippers are intensely scrutinized. Prayers, gatherings, and religious conversations must remain well within the confines of what the regime deems acceptable. Any suspected affiliation with foreign Islamic organizations or clandestine religious circles can result in harsh retribution, including incarceration or forced labor. Beyond the vigilant eye of the state, societal pressure also poses a heavy burden. Having been an atheist nation for generations, North Korea has embedded a deep suspicion of religion in its people. Those raised under rigid ideological conditioning may regard religious believers with mistrust or fear. New Muslim converts often experience isolation from family and neighbors, many of whom worry that religious affiliation could attract unwanted attention from the regime. This enduring cultural stigma means that many Muslims are forced to worship in solitude, unable to participate in communal rituals or publicly display their faith. Even when believers manage to convene discreetly, access to Islamic knowledge remains severely limited. Halal food is scarce, and obtaining traditional Islamic education is profoundly difficult. There are only a handful of Islamic texts available in the Korean language, and while some materials have been smuggled into the country, the dissemination of religious knowledge is still under tight control. Many new adherents must rely on oral teachings from foreign imams and secretive networks, making it a continuous challenge to fully comprehend and observe the tenets of their faith. Yet, amid these hardships, North Korean Muslims exhibit extraordinary resilience. They have adapted through secret worship, gathering in small, trusted circles, and inventing creative ways to sustain their religious identity. In North Korea, Islam is not merely a belief system. It has become a symbol of resistance, of hope, and of personal liberation. Despite enduring repression, the emerging Muslim community remains steadfast, clinging to their convictions with the hope that someday they will be free to worship without fear. Whether North Korea will continue to allow religious expression remains to be seen. But one truth is irrefutable: Islam has taken root, and its followers are determined not to let it fade. The unexpected emergence of Islam in North Korea in 2024 has ignited crucial discussions about the future of religious liberty in one of the globe's most repressive and isolated societies. For decades, the country has been infamous for its unyielding religious policy, permitting only state-sanctioned rituals and severely curbing any form of spiritual devotion. Yet now, with a growing Muslim population and a government surprisingly approving mosque construction, many are asking, is this the beginning of a genuine transformation toward religious tolerance, or merely a transient maneuver fueled by strategic political interests? For North Korean Muslims, the rise of Islam has brought a mix of hope and ambiguity. Many interpret the growing number of mosques and worshippers as a positive step toward wider spiritual freedom, envisioning a future where a more inclusive society might gradually emerge. Every new convert, every mosque erected, and every publicly uttered prayer marks a small yet profound victory in a nation where religious expression was once entirely crushed. The fact that Muslims were permitted to observe Ramadan and participate in Friday congregational prayers without fear of punishment signals that, at least for now, the government is tolerating their existence. Still, the challenges remain substantial. Even with the newfound opportunity to worship more freely, North Korean Muslims continue to live under unceasing surveillance, with all their religious activities closely scrutinized by state authorities. Though they may no longer be forced to operate in absolute secrecy, they are far from being free. They must still remain vigilant about when and how they participate in religious gatherings. Any indication of unauthorized religious activity or foreign ideological influence could bring grave consequences. This precarious reality forces many worshippers to tread a delicate line between devotion and fear, unsure whether this fleeting moment of openness will endure, or if it will be abruptly replaced by a sudden, harsh crackdown. The emergence of Islam in North Korea also prompts broader geopolitical reflections. Some analysts speculate that Kim Jong-un's move to permit mosque construction was driven by a strategic desire to forge stronger diplomatic relations with Muslim-majority countries, particularly across the Middle East. If this assumption holds true, then the regime's tolerance of Islam may not stem from any genuine belief in religious freedom, but rather from a tactical political calculus. Should international or domestic conditions shift, North Korea's position on Islam could swiftly reverse, leaving many new Muslim converts dangerously exposed. Despite these uncertainties, the resilience demonstrated by North Korean Muslims is unmistakable. Even amidst immense hardship, they persevere in their spiritual path with quiet determination, convinced that their increasing presence will help reshape the future of religious tolerance in their homeland. Whether this represents the beginning of a profound, long-term transformation, or merely a fleeting episode in the nation's complex history, the rise of Islam in North Korea illustrates that faith endures, even in the darkest corners of repression. For many North Koreans, the emergence of Islam in 2024 has evolved into something greater than a religious awakening. It has become a beacon of identity, resilience, and hope. In a nation where personal liberties are relentlessly curtailed, embracing Islam represents not only a spiritual expedition, but also a bold assertion of personal autonomy. Even under the iron grip of one of the world's most inflexible authoritarian regimes, North Korean Muslims have drawn strength from their faith, forming a close-knit community that offers both spiritual nourishment and emotional support. One of the most remarkable dimensions of Islam's presence in North Korea is its unique power to foster unity amid adversity. In a society where the state meticulously dictates nearly every facet of daily existence, religion offers an alternative sanctuary of meaning and connection. Many recent converts who once felt isolated and estranged under the suffocating weight of state ideology now find themselves part of a wider spiritual family. Islam has granted them a sense of solidarity, an emotional and spiritual alliance where struggles are shared, strength is multiplied, and peace is found in collective belief. In a land frequently divided by economic despair and political subjugation, religion has emerged as a rare and potent force for unity. Beyond the communal aspect, Islam also offers individual North Koreans a pathway to inner peace and elevated purpose. The core tenets of compassion, justice, and self-restraint provide spiritual orientation in a world where mere survival often overshadows personal evolution. Through acts like prayer, fasting, and charity, many North Korean Muslims have unearthed a sense of deep fulfillment that transcends material concerns and political mandates. In a society where external freedoms are scarce, the cultivation of internal spiritual liberty becomes profoundly significant. The teachings of Islam foster mindfulness, patience, and fortitude, equipping believers to confront the daily hardships imposed by a relentlessly controlled system. However, the practice of Islam in North Korea is not without immense sacrifices. The pervasive fear of state surveillance, the societal disdain for religion, and the absence of religious infrastructure mean that many adherents are forced to worship in secrecy. Still, despite these formidable barriers, they remain unwavering in their devotion to faith. Each new conversion, every discreet prayer circle, and all moments of hidden worship represent quiet acts of defiance and unshakable conviction. Though the future of Islam in North Korea remains shrouded in uncertainty, one reality stands firm. Faith has carved out a place for itself, even in one of the most heavily repressive regimes on earth. For North Korean Muslims, Islam is more than a religion. It is a source of fortitude, a catalyst for unity, and a symbol of enduring hope for a brighter tomorrow. The unexpected rise of Islam in North Korea in 2024 imparts a powerful message about the tenacity of faith, the resilience of the human soul, and the indestructible essence of hope. Even in oppressive environments where freedom is a distant luxury and every move is scrutinized, people still yearn for meaning, belonging, and a connection to something transcendent. This unfolding story reminds us that true strength doesn't reside in domination or control, but in the quiet yet resolute persistence of belief amidst overwhelming adversity. In our own lives, we too encounter challenges, personal, societal, or spiritual, that put our convictions to the test. The perseverance of North Korean Muslims serves as a reminder that, no matter the hardship, holding fast to our principles can bring peace, identity, and a profound sense of direction. It also emphasizes the vital importance of community and collective support. Human beings flourish when they uplift one another, especially in a world that often feels fragmented and isolating. Ultimately, this story teaches us that faith, in any form, is not confined to religion alone. It is about finding hope in something greater than ourselves and standing steadfast in our beliefs, even when the world seems aligned against us. No matter the obstacles ahead, perseverance and unity remain our most powerful tools to overcome even the most daunting trials.